Hello, how's it going? So I'm going to start this off with, you probably got something in the mail. If you own property in Williamson County, you got a notice in the mail probably last week, and it says the notice of your appraised value. Please know, I did not send that to you. That is not my office. I am the tax assessor collector, and people here assess, and they think that a value is assessed on your property. It's actually the Williamson Central Appraisal District. So they're appraising your property and putting a value on your property and notifying you. They try not to mail it on April 1st, on April Fool's Day, but usually it goes out April 2nd. And the appraisal district, which is a separate governmental entity, determines the value of your property. And then I take that information and do some other stuff with it that I'll get into here in a little bit with that. But just want to set the record straight first of all. People often call, our calls spike significantly at our office when appraisal notices go out, and we have to tell people, I'm sorry, but you've reached the wrong office. That's the appraisal district down the street that does that for all properties in the county. Speaking of properties in the county, anybody want to venture a guess on how many property tax accounts there are in Williamson County? Just throw a number out there. Anything? 300,000. So we'll have 300,000 property tax accounts that will calculate bills for this year. So what we do is once we get the value from the appraisal district and the tax rates from all of the taxing units in the county, we do the math. That's the assessing part. So if you look up assess in the dictionary, one of the definitions of assess is to calculate. So I calculate the value times the tax rates from all the taxing units to determine what an individual's tax bill is on their property. Any guess on how many? Y'all aren't guessing. I've already heard y'all get asked a couple of questions. Nobody answered. There's 140 taxing units in Williamson County. There's a whole half of those are MUDs, municipal utility districts, in the county. The rest are cities and schools, emergency services districts, and then special districts like Upper Brushy Creek and Lower Brushy Creek Water Control Improvement District. ACC, Austin Community College, is in Williamson County. There's 30 or 40 of those, maybe 20 of those, different special districts, but a whole bunch of MUDs, 16 cities, 12 school districts, 12 ESDs, the county, and then some specialty districts. So 140 taxing units that we put onto tax bills when we are doing calculations for taxes. So that's one thing that my office does. But really, the main thing that my office does and that every tax office in the state does is register and title motor vehicles. That's what most people are in our office for. So if you need that little blue sticker for your windshield, that's coming from my office. If you go to a dealership and buy a vehicle, you're signing a whole bunch of paperwork, right? For maybe the car loan and other things. But a portion of all those documents that you sign, the dealer actually takes them, sends them to my office, where we put them into the registration and title system to create a motor vehicle record for that vehicle and put your name on it. So my office is actually doing that work when you go and purchase a vehicle at a dealership. They send it to us, we create the title, and then every year after that, you come to my office, or hopefully you're not coming to my office, and you're doing it by mail or online, or maybe going to HEB to renew your registration and get your little blue sticker so you're not driving around and law enforcement back there doesn't have to pull you over for expired registration. So that is what every tax office in the state of Texas does, is title and register motor vehicles. We also handle handicap placards and stuff like that, specialty plates, those things, everything to do with that motor vehicle. One thing that people think we do that we don't. We do not renew driver's licenses. That's with DPS. So that's a whole nother office, and especially if you've not lived in Texas before, if you're from another state, we get a lot of people walking into our offices wanting to renew their driver's licenses, and we don't do that. That's not in Texas anyway. That's a DPS office. But as agents of Tex DMV, we register and title vehicles and do everything around a motor vehicle record. There's about 100 tax offices that also collect property taxes throughout the state. In some counties, and in a lot of, especially the smaller counties, the appraisal district also collects taxes. Bell County, just north of us, that appraisal district collects his taxes. The tax assessor collector does not collect taxes, property taxes for the county or anything else. So 140 taxing units throughout the county. There's about 521,000 registered vehicles in this county. So it feels like there's a lot more if you've driven around recently. You know, there's 740,000 residents and 520,000 vehicles running around the county. And my office does collect all the stuff for that. And Connie, you mentioned when I was walking up that you write your checks out to Larry Gaddes. Number one, yes, you can make your check out to me. That is because I'm the only elected official that has a bank account with my name on it. So when you pay your property taxes or you write a check for your vehicle registration, I'm taking that money and I'm putting it into an account with my name on it. And then my accounting and my motor vehicle or my property tax department, along with my accounting department, is balancing all the tills and then figuring out where that money goes. So when you pay your property taxes, you may have anywhere between 4 to 6, maybe 7 different taxing units on there. If you live in Georgetown, in the city of Georgetown, you have Williamson County Road and Bridge, City of Georgetown, and Georgetown ISD on a tax bill. So there's 4 entities that I've collected money for that I've got to disperse that money to. And it takes a couple of days to make sure that we've collected and accounted for everything. While my accounting and property tax department are doing that, that money is sitting in an account with my name on it. And only after everything's been settled do we actually push that money out to who it belongs to the cities, the schools, and the county. So I'm personally liable for that money while it's in my name. We do the same thing when you buy a vehicle. You put a down payment on a car at a dealership, or you buy it outright from an individual. You kind of come into my office, and there's a sales tax, 6.25% motor vehicle sales tax on the purchase price of that vehicle. I'm collecting that money. I'm collecting a bunch of other fees too, title fees, things like that. Some of that goes to the county. Just a little bit of it goes to the county. Most of it goes to the Texas Comptroller's office for the motor vehicle sales tax, and some of it goes to DMV. So all the money that I'm taking in, number one, I'll let you, I don't get to keep any of it. My accounting department wants to see zeros down at the bottom of the ledger, right? We bring in $1 million, we need to be sending out $1 million. So I don't get to keep any of that money. But while we're determining where it goes, that money is sitting in an account with my name on it, and I'm personally liable for that. So if something happens to that, and there's a dereliction of duties on my part, and I've not done the things to keep that money safe, I could go to jail for that, which makes me very unique in the spectrum of elected officials. The county treasurer handles the county's funds, but he would have to physically steal the money himself and embezzle it in order for him to go to jail. If something happens with that money, and he has nothing to do with that, he doesn't have the personal liability that I have while it's in my name. I do tell my wife that I'm probably at some points in time, I'm the richest person in Williamson County. I've got a bank statement with a big number in it. Does anybody guess what that number might be for this past year? How much money have I collected in property taxes, motor vehicle sales tax, other fees related to registering your vehicle and stuff like that? Any guesses? 3.2 million and 2.5. It's actually $2.8 billion. And my wife wonders, why do we live in this house and not in some Cimarron Hills? Can we move out there? No, we can't, babe. None of that money's mine. Yes, we collected approximately $2.8 billion, and then we disperse it out. And like I said, I want zeros at the bottom of the ledger because that, although it's my money for a short time, I have to hand that money over to somebody else, depending on which side of the office it is. So that we do. So I'm going to leave some time for questions, and there's other things I can talk about, but usually people have a lot of questions about property taxes and other things. Yes, ma'am.
What do you do with unpaid taxes?
Unpaid taxes?
Yeah.
Those would be delinquent. And number one, they accrue penalties and interest. So on February 1, statutory guidelines say 7% penalty and interest accrue, and then it has a schedule on how much it increases. And starting on July 1 of that year, so July 1 of 2025, if the 2024 property taxes aren't paid, then they get turned over to a delinquent tax law firm that specializes in collecting delinquent taxes. And a suit can be filed to collect those taxes.
Who gets the penalties?
The entities do. Penalties and interest go to the entities. Yeah, so a portion, however much, percentage prorated amount for each entity that taxes that property. Yes, ma'am. So KXAN or KView, I can't remember which one, this was in 2015, so this was 10 years ago, tried to look at some information. We dug up at that time 20 years of information about foreclosure lawsuits that had been filed in Williamson County. And I can tell you from 10 years ago, this hasn't happened since. So 30-year time frame, we've never, ever, ever sold a person's homestead. It's never happened. Yes, ma'am.
So you mentioned the money's collected and then held until it's dispersed
Mm-hmm.
in an interest-bearing account? Or not?
Some of it is and some of it is not. I have an accounting manager that works really hard to try to earn some interest on the money that we collect. In December, we get a wire transfer. It's a company called CoreLogic. They do a lot of work for mortgage companies. They're a third-party vendor, basically, and they manage property tax accounts for lenders. And we get a wire transfer for approximately 105,000 accounts in Williamson County. One wire transfer paying 105,000 accounts. It's usually this year it was about $800 million. So that comes in and it's in interest-bearing accounts while we're figuring out what to do with that. And then we take that interest that we earn and we hand it to the county treasurer, because technically that'll be the county's interest earned, and it gets put into the county's coffers. I don't get to keep any, the penalties that are on property taxes, the interest, none of that stuff stays with my office. I don't get to spend any of it. Yes, ma'am.
And there's an accounting from the county treasurers, I'm assuming, that delineates what monies go where for the county, I'm assuming, roads, whatever. What do we pay for with all that money?
With all that money, that the county, number one, is about 20%, maybe 16 to 20% of your tax bill goes to the county. So that pays this judicial system that you heard about. It pays for roads. It pays for law enforcement in the sheriff's department, the constable's office. It funds my office. Parks, the county has some huge, beautiful parks, an IT department, EMS, 911, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, and but there is a budget on the county's website that you can look at and see on a pretty high level what the budgeted amounts are for different various offices and other things that the county does. My office is on there. So, yes.
16% that goes to the county, the largest dispersion, who gets most?
School districts get about 50% of your tax bill. If you live in a city, and this all depends on where your property is in the county. You may be out in Thrall, where there's Thrall, ISD, the county road and bridge, 3 taxing units. If you want to live cheap, go live out in Thrall. Your tax bill will be a much lower because the tax rate is much lower because there's only 3 people taxing your property out there. So in that scenario, the county is probably about 30% of your tax bill, maybe 35%. But then you get into my home in Round Rock. I've got 6 taxing units. I've got Round Rock ISD, City of Round Rock, ACC, Williamson County Road and Bridge, and Upper Brushy Creek WCID. So I've got 6 taxing units, and that dilutes the amount that I'm sending to the county. That's where it's about 16% or so, and it gets divided up into others. If you live in a MUD, that MUD tax rate is going to be pretty high as well. So in a MUD, you may be spending 40% to the school, 40% to the MUD, and then the rest is divided up to the other entities. And ESD, if you're in a MUD, you likely are in an emergency services district to provide fire protection and stuff. So the percentages change, but in general, it's about 20% to the county and 50% to the school district. The other percentages are divided up into some other taxing units. Yes, ma'am. I did not want to become a tax assessor collector. I worked at HEB for 20 years. I got out of retail. I did go to work at the appraisal district, so I was doing that job for a little bit. And then I tell people I went from the dark side to the darker side. I went to work at the tax office. Y'all may remember Deborah Hunt. She was your tax assessor collector for 20 years. I had the privilege of working for her as her chief deputy for 7 of those years. And when she retired, I said, you know what? I really do love this job. Absolutely love it. And I want to keep doing this if I can, if the voters will let me. So in 2016, I ran as tax assessor collector and have been serving in that role since January 1 of 2017. But no, I did not dream about becoming the tax assessor collector. Right. What else? I know y'all got some other questions for me. Yes, sir.
You were talking about motor vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
What happens with titles, like you said they're all here? Let's say a vehicle gets totaled out, and then that insurance company, they get the title that you have for the
Yep.
car. What happens after that?
They will file some paperwork. I believe it's with DMV. I'm looking at my chief deputy back there, Maritza. Hello, wave to everybody, Maritza. They'll file some paperwork that creates a salvage title for that vehicle, and that vehicle will be, I know in Bastrop they have 2 or 3 facilities where insurance companies take salvage vehicles and they have to destroy those vehicles and handle the salvage title from there. Luckily, I say luckily, it's a lot of work to do all that for Bastrop County tax assessor collector. We don't have any of those facilities, so once it in Williamson County, so once it goes off and does that, but that blue title for that car that just got totaled turns into a salvage title in May, and then from there it disappears, and we have no idea where that thing goes. Yeah, the record just stays a salvage, yep. But the vehicle has to be destroyed. Yes, ma'am.
This is more of a suggestion than a question. Our previous car suddenly decided it was going to retire permanently, and so we had to buy a new car and decided that we would go ahead and get the disability license plates on it. So I go down there, my placards expire in July, and they would not let me get new placards along with the license plate. So I'm just suggesting that maybe some rules get adjusted.
If they're telling you that, it's because that's what's in the law.
Well, I know.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
How do we do that? How do you change something like that?
You talk to your state rep and your state senator and say, hey, this was the issue that I have, and they'll go and talk to the folks in the legislature that draft language and see if they can change that stuff.
It's minor.
Yeah. Yeah, we're working on, I testified on a bill last Monday that this is a terrible situation. Husband and wife are on a car title. The husband passes away, and if there's a lien on that title, we have to treat that as a taxable transaction because the controller has rules that say this is what happens. And to remove the husband who's deceased and to leave the wife on the title, if there's a lien on it, that's a taxable transaction. I have to charge that widow 6.25% sales tax on the value of that vehicle. Again, she's already paid it once. It has to happen again. We go to the controller's office and say, "This isn't right. Why do your rules say we have to do this?" We just wrote a bill. Senator Perry up in Lubbock wrote a bill to fix that issue. I testified on it last Monday, so that transaction, you're not paying a gift tax. If there's no lien, it would be a $10 gift tax, and you're certainly not paying a motor vehicle tax. So it can be done, but you're right. There are some big issues out there. But and I'm sorry you got that response. But if my staff is telling you that, they are following what the controller and the transportation code tell us we have to do. And I would recommend too. Let me just put a plug in here. If you don't have to come into my office, please don't. It's busy. We have folks that really do need to be in our offices for things, but if it's something as simple as renewing your registration to get that little blue sticker, you can go to the Business Center at HEB. You can go, we have two or three inspection stations that you can go get your vehicle inspected. And yes, in Williamson County and 16 other counties in the state, you still need an emissions inspection. You can go get that emissions inspection. It's one in Round Rock near on May Street and one in Cedar Park off of 1431. Go to the inspection station. They'll inspect your vehicle, and you can purchase your registration sticker right there at that inspection sticker, and they'll stick it on their window for you. You never have to come to my office. But if you do need that registration sticker, you can go online to our website, get it. I just did it last month for my vehicle. It takes about 7 days, but I do get a receipt. If I were to get pulled over or something, I've got a receipt saying I bought the registration. Law enforcement will let you go, right? If you have that, yes. Please avoid my office if it's something as simple that we do have waits. I see about 260 to 270,000 taxpayers a year in my 4 offices, and it's the most visited office in the county for taxpayers to come to. So if I can keep you out of my office and keep your time with you, then I certainly want to do that. Did I see another hand? Yes, ma'am.
So if you're filing a dispute for your property taxes, does that go to your office or to the appraiser?
That goes, you're challenging your value. You cannot protest your taxes. There's no such thing. But you can protest your value, and you file that with the appraisal district, and do that by May 15th. That's the statutory deadline to do that. So you got your notices of value in the mail last week. You have until May 15th to file that protest with the appraisal district. Yep. What else? Yes, ma'am.
If it's cheaper to not go to your office, that's what we're gonna do.
It's, what do you save, $1? If you go online, you save $1. Yep, so.
It wasn't always like that.
It wasn't. No, that changed in 2023, I think. Again, a legislative change. I have to do everything that the law tells me. Every penny that I collect, it's because somebody has told me that I have to collect that and then distribute it. Yes, ma'am.
You visited our mud before and talked.
Blockhouse?
Yes.
Ah, yes,
Yes.
I'm familiar.
So I wanted to share that in case anyone else
Mhm.
knows that that's part of the services as
Yep.
well. And I want to extend another invite probably for our budget season.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Would be happy to.
Thank you.
What else? All righty. Thank you so much. Nice talking to y'all.